Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Vancouver International Black Film Festival. Created by the Fabienne Cola Foundation, this festival will run entirely online and takes place from December 9th to 12th of this year. And so you can grab your all access pass by visiting www.vancouverblackfilmfest.com. And I also want to welcome you to this panel. But before I do that, I want to first begin by acknowledging that this event takes place on the ancestral, unceded, and unoccupied territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. We recognize that the relationship with these lands is ancient, primary, and enduring, and we recognize the immense labor that has gone into cultivating, nurturing, and protecting these lands. As uninvited settlers in what is colonially known as Vancouver, British Columbia, we recognize that we are on stolen land. With that, we honor and support Indigenous resistance and reconciliation as allies in the continued fight for Indigenous sovereignty. So again, I would love to welcome you to the panel today. My name is Ruth Unebu, and I'm a registered clinical counselor here in the Lower Mainland of British Columbia, and I am the host for today's panel, and I'm so excited to connect you with these four guests that I have today. So the topic of the panel today is the imposter in the room. And I have, like I said, four amazing people joining me on the panel to talk about what it's like for Black creatives in the film and television industry in Vancouver. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is turn it over to each individual to introduce themselves. And so I would love for you to know who you are, what you do, how long you've been in the industry. And actually, I'd love to know, were you raised in Vancouver or did you move here? And so I will start with whoever's first on my list, which is Lillian. So welcome, Lillian. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me here. It's lovely to meet you all. So my name is Lilian Mello. I am born and raised in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I moved to Vancouver last year to actually pursue my dream of working in the film industry. And I've been working in both SEDEC department and art department. I've done some works as production designer, set decorator, and before I moved here, I also worked in Brazil in one of the biggest, I think it's the biggest TV channel in South America, and I was a set designer assistant by the translation. Like it works so differently. The departments that I have to like look which one works the best. So like, let's say set designer assistant, but basically what I did there was what a set designer does here, and plus other roles. Yeah, so that's how long I have been here in Vancouver. 1 year working the film, and in Brazil I worked since 2011. That's when I started my career in film.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Canada as well.
Thank you.
I haven't been to Brazil. I would love to go there, but that's another story. Awesome. Nice to have you. The next person we have up is Sia. Welcome, Sia.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks. Yes, so my name is Sia, and I'm originally from Sierra Leone, West Africa, and but lived in Edmonton as well too. I actress and voiceover artist. I moved to Vancouver in 2017, and I was living in Los Angeles prior to that. So after school, my career really started in 2014. Right. So yeah, so from 2014 until now, I had a little bit of a hiatus because I gave birth to a human being.
Awesome. Wow, welcome. Thank you. And so you said you're an actress, right?
Yes, I'm an actress and a voiceover actress.
And voiceover.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Good to see you. Simone, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Simone Blay. I live here in Victoria, actually. So don't live in Vancouver, but very close. And I've been living here since 2014. So a few years now. And I was born and raised in Toronto. Big metropolitan city to like a bit more of a smaller island vibe. But I've definitely spent time in Vancouver, and I would say I'm like a very new emerging filmmaker. I've only directed and produced one film, which was Dance Like Everybody's Watching. And that focuses on the experience of experiences of Black dancers here in Victoria. And so, yeah, super excited to be here. Excited to just learn from all of you.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Adele. Welcome, Adele.
Hi, I'm Adele Rope. I was raised in Vancouver. I've been here since I was 4 years old. I grew up in Burnaby, but I've been moving around a lot, living on the East Coast, Montreal especially. I've been in the industry as talent actually since I was 12 years old, 11. I started commercials and modeling really young, like between 12 and 14. And I didn't really start emerging into production and like directing and producing until like 2019. So I'm technically still an emerging artist, but I just started my own production company and stuff this year. So really pursuing it. Yeah. Black owned. Yay. And yeah, so what was the last question? Yeah, I was not born here. I am originally South Sudanese, East Africa, but I spent most of my life in Burnaby, BC.
That's beautiful. First of all, I'm so excited to see so many Black faces on one screen. And there are not a lot of us here in Vancouver or, even on Victoria. I'm not even sure about that. So it's just really, really cool just to see the representation of all of us from different places. So I'm excited to just, talk about this topic of being the imposter in the room. And when I was given this, the talk about the imposter, there could be two kind of avenues that we can kind of look at this. And so one of the avenues is just, being the imposter because we're underrepresented within Vancouver, right? So going into the industry as Black women, feeling like different because not a lot of people look like us, I guess. That's one avenue. The other avenue would be like imposter syndrome that everybody does have, right? That feeling of like, I'm actually really good at my job. I know they hired me. I know I've done it before, but kind of having that aspect as well on top of being Black women. So I just wanted to kind of, open up the question to anybody who wants to answer this question. What has your experience been as a Black person in this industry? And have you always been underrepresented in the room? So this is open to anybody who wants to kind of jump out.
Yes. So I know I said I'm an actress, but I also do stand-in work. And oh dear God, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. But here we are, I'm just gonna say it. Like, I go to work and I work on a set and I look around and I'm like, wow, two Black people, because I'm standing in for an actress. And every day, day in, day out, it's like, hi, John, hi, Bob, hi, Michael. Like, it's just like this whiteness everywhere. And it's not a negative way, but it's just, there's something about having other people that look like you, like something about connecting in that way that is so special and is needed in a work environment, because you're spending hours. I'm not on here for 1-2 hours. I am here. Like, I spend more time with you than you probably do with your partners at home. And I know that for a fact. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's that feeling of just like, oh, I'm going back to my school days where I was like the only Black person. And now with BLM that happened, oh my gosh, everyone wants to ask you what you think all Black people in the world view as to this, because apparently all us Black people are the same, and we have that, and the person that's there is the one who speaks for all of us.
Yeah.
So it's just something of like, when I get casted on a show that's all Black, or working on a show that has Black people, it's like, Black people, we're here. It's just like, it's something. I feel like it's honestly scientific, where it's like your body, there's something with it that it does, because it's just, yeah. That's all I can say right now. I just got too excited about this.
I love how you said it's scientific though, because it's the same as if we just see a Black person walking across the street. We're like, hey, I'm over here, right? So, being hired on a set with a lot of Black people, even like 2 or 3, is kind of like, okay, and you settle down a little bit. Yeah.
Like, I'm in Victoria right now for a play, and literally when I walk and see a Black person, I will cross the street, and I'll just be like, oh, hi.
Come find me.
Come find, exactly.
I'm always in the streets. Come find me.
How about anyone else? Anybody kind of want to, add to this, Lillian?
Yeah, I can add. Yeah, like I have the experience both here and in Brazil. And even though Brazil is like maybe more than half is black or mixed, you are still usually the only black person in the room. Or, so I had this experience there, and I didn't know the name as Imposter. But when I moved here, also like the productions that I worked, I was usually the only black person in my department for sure. But like when I walk in the office, you're the only black person, and it feels weird because not only you don't see other person that look like you, as Sia mentioned, but I also carry all the baggage of my own country. So like my own country, unfortunately, black people usually they are working in entry levels or sub work, what we call their sub work. In here, like it's different, the conception of work jobs, because you can do a job because you're good at it, not because that's the only option for you. And it's different there. Like for black people that usually they are from a very poor class, and they don't have access to a lot of education and all. They end up doing works that are like cleaning, construction, that in there is or carrying weight, things like here, like set dresser. You would look and only black people basically, or mixed people, and those job wasn't they weren't job that people will look and respect. And that's another thing. We're job like, oh, you're here to obey my orders. So what I noticed there, and I brought this here, and I'm trying to kind of undress of that concept, was people would look at me back there and expect me to be from the cleaning group for somewhere, but not from the art department. Not expect to be a person that is thinking and creating the spaces. And I was just invisible, and in here is I'm trying to bring the trying to take this off, because here's kind of a clean slate, like you're starting over, but it's still when you get in the room, it's just like, if I messed up, I'm the only black person here. If I heard someone saying that if I messed up, I'm representing an entire race. They can say that's why I don't hire a black person. That's why, so it's a lot. I don't know how to explain that, but I always felt this way when I got into spaces, especially work, when I don't have like many black people or doing the same type of job as me. That is, as I'm representing an entire race, and if I messed up something, they look at me, see, that's why you don't hire, So yeah, I don't know. It's it's a new concept for me, this imposter syndrome. The it's just like finally putting a name on something that I have ever felt.
Always felt. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Go ahead, Adele.
I kind of feel the same thing too. I've been producing my own projects for the last 3 years. It's been the same project, but just building up on it. And I always have people ask me, so who's your producer? Or who should I talk to? Or, looking for the person that's supposed to do business with them. And I'm like, me. What do you mean? Like, there's nobody else. You're looking at her, And a lot of the times, like, I just finished a film summit for playback. And I was just in all these rooms, and I am like not only am I a woman, but I'm also black, and not only just black, but African black, like dark black. So I just like stand out in a room automatically. And so I've noticed a lot of people look at me and they become super ageist as well. Like, oh, what a young lady, welcome young lady, like this, and trying to, belittle you in some instances, or look for the person who's in charge and things like that. And it makes you question yourself too. Like, wait, what do you mean? Like, am I supposed to have like, somebody else, doing it? And then it makes you question yourself. Okay, so who's in charge now? So I remember when I first started, I had to just pretend that I had a producer that wasn't me. And I would just be like, I'll let them, I'm just going to check in and let them know. And So like as I was hiring people, I was like, okay, like I'll let my producer, like it was just so awkward, you know? And so I think that people don't expect you to be in position where you're actually in control and where you're running the production and you have the company and things like that. And that your age is not really going to define whether or not you can do a job, like, and things like that. So I felt that people don't take me seriously sometimes in certain rooms, which sometimes works in my favor. But it's still challenging to continuously have to say like, why do I need, do I don't need a plus one, or why do I need a guardian for to approve of this conversation? You know, you deal with me. So that's a challenging thing for me.
Thank you. And Simone, do you have what is it like for you?
Yeah, I mean, wow, I'm like learning a lot. So I've never like worked on somebody else's production, just because I've only done the one film, and it was a Story Hive funded film. And so they give you a lot of agency in terms of like being the project lead, being like the director and producer, just like realistically within the budget, you're going to end up having a lot of different hats on. And so the one film that I did direct and produce, there was like a lot of, just a lot of agency on my part. And I guess I'm lucky in that way, where I feel like a little bit insulated from some of the things that go on in the industry in general, just on the grander scale of, like the issues that a lot of you have touched on, of like just systemic racism in the workplace and things like that. It was really beautiful to be able to like create my own workplace and to create my own work culture. And so, I can only say I'm really lucky in that way, but also like, I haven't been in the industry to know. So it's really unfortunate to hear that it's that bad or that challenging, you know? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, I just wanted to say it's not that bad. You know, those things are negative like things. It's not bad. It's just they don't know better. You know, it's not a negative experience that you're facing these things because people are always they have that expectation. So it's not it's not a negative experience. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah, I think like definitely it's also a reason why like when I was hiring a production company, like I wanted to find like a Black owned company, or just like a company that was like people of color. And I couldn't really find, like, especially like locally on the island, it was really hard to find a production company with like the size and like the time and everything like that. And so that was a challenge in a way. And I think, I'm not totally sure, but there might be more options in Vancouver just because of the population size. But yeah, I think I'll probably talk more about like just what that that process of, you know, production and everything was like a little bit more afterwards. But I'll start with that.
Well, I love hearing that you haven't experienced it as much as, you know, some of the other panel members. Like, and I love just looking towards that future of creating spaces that are by us, for us, and just surrounded by us. So I love that. Talking when Adele, you know, you said it's not that bad. I wonder if we just have to accept it, right? Like, because we're Black women, because we are underrepresented, because we're young, and because we're women, do we feel that it's not that bad because we've just had to do this our whole lives and kind of just accept this treatment? I wonder if you recognize that, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think that with every movement that happens, a change starts. Like, if we go back to like the Me Too movement, when that started, all of a sudden you had union, you had everyone getting on board, being like, yes, we are making systemic, like there's changes that are happening, because like people were being dropped off left, right, and center, right? And then you go, and when I say people, I mean like white men who had power. And you know, you're in the BLM movement, where that really brought a light and focus in everything. In every company now, from theater to TV production to anything, they're now like getting their people to take classes to learn about this, right? And I know one thing that happened with Vancouver was we had the issue with hair. I got really fed up. I was like, this is bullcrap. There's no reason why you can't, like, you have to have people who know how to do my hair on set, period. Anyways, made a big fuss about it. Now the union is now doing this thing, IATSE and whatnot. They're now doing this thing where the head of departments for hair are now getting classes together, getting training together and having that. So I feel like when the egg breaks is when we realize as people that's like, oh, okay, there's this person who's been working on a website. There's actually a website that's out that's free where you can find producers that are of color, where you can find actors and set decorators and everything, and you can put your information up for free. And you can find that. So it's like we have always had these programs and whatnot. They just never got light that was shone upon them. So now that this has happened, now people are like, there are access to people of like Black people. We just have to give the light to them. You know what I mean? But I don't think it's ever anything that we should have to settle for. Be like, yeah, that's just the way it is. Because if we do that, then we're giving them power. Yeah. And it's like, no. It's like we're going to change this, and everyone is going to have a different tactic of how they do that. Like Adele, the way you do it with being a producer is going to be different than Lillian, how you do it with being in your department, and Simona, how you do it when you're doing your projects and what comes on. It's very different, but at the end of the day, we're all going to the same goal, right?
I totally agree with you on that. I also say that I don't think it's about like being like taking it, but it's about understanding that you have to go places where you're celebrated, in order to do that, you have to create those spaces for yourself, like when I incorporated my production company this year, I did it with the intention of, creating a space where my friends and I can make things, and not have, and be able to be connected to our projects and be able to project, so a lot of us do a lot of Afrofuturism, and one of my really great friends said something that Afrofuturism means that you can project into the future Blackness without any chains, just you can freely project and see yourself into the future, and so when I hear those types of things from my like other creative friends, it motivates me to say, like we all have certain gifts and skill sets that we can bring forward as creatives, as Black women. And I think that one thing that we have different is we have this community-based approach, right? Where we say, like, I want to be a part of the healing in my community. I want to give a voice to my community. You're focusing on that uplifting sort of like sense, versus in the other way, in the Western perspective, it's really like singular thought, where it's myself, me, and my future, And so I think that what changes when we come into a room is that we're like, no, we're bringing everyone with us, and we're gonna occupy this space whether you like it or not. And I just always tell people, like, with a lot of my creators, I'm just like, right now it's a really awkward time for all of us, right? You're uncomfortable because I'm Black and I'm here. I'm uncomfortable because I'm the only Black person in this room. But at the end of the day, we have to learn how to coexist. So like, let's realize that we want to make things. We're gonna have to collaborate, and this is the industry that we're in. So I think that I continuously just go with this mantra of, I'm going to go where I'm celebrated. And if I'm not accepted in a place, I'm going to create that space for myself. Because I'm not going to stop making things just because you don't want me to, And so that's the attitude that I carry with me.
That fire.
I know. I'm like, okay, girl. Like, no, yeah, like be professional. But yes, that's amazing.
Send a voice note with that so I can listen to it every morning.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Record that, send it to me.
That are gonna go like, no, that's absolutely beautiful, and that's something that I find the line where you have the confidence of like, I'm taking my space because I own this space. I don't care if you're uncomfortable. I'm here to shine. And the moment that becomes, I forgot the word in English, but it becomes too much when like you're just like, oh yeah, what is the word? Jesus, I forgot.
Fiery?
Like stuck up or something, or your head's too big or something, or
yeah, like you are just being like, thinking you're the last. We have a saying in Brazil that say like, you think they're your last cookie in the package. Like, yeah, I'm here. So that's kind of what I carry, because unfortunately, what I see is, especially us being women, when we tend to put up our attitude and our confidence in, and I say like, yeah, I'm here to shine. Some people say like,
Mm.
you know, you're being too much. So it's weird. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's just me that feels that, but it is, yeah, it is finding a balance between finding your space, taking up space, owning the space, and at the same time, not letting people get into you, saying not letting people trying to not let you shine by
Yeah.
these kind of sexism, racism, kind of, you know, like kind of all those things. I don't know how to express better.
No, I think you expressed
Sorry,
it
it's like
beautifully. You
the
expressed it beautifully.
vocabulary.
Yeah.
Well
I
done.
think
Good
it's
job.
what you're saying is like, you know, you want to go in with that confidence of just being a person, specifically, you
Yeah.
know, a Black, strong woman. And then society tells us, like, if you know that you're good and you sit in your truth, sometimes they're like, oh, but you're, like you said, you're too much. Oh, you have a big
Yeah.
head. As opposed to like, no, I know I'm good. It's nothing to do with being, you know, egotistical or anything, but it's just sitting in that truth and being like, I'm good at what I do. And so there's that
Yeah.
tug of war, wanting to show up like I'm good, but then what is everybody else going to think about me?
Yeah, and it's so interesting that you say that, Ruth, because I find that like straight white men, it's gonna sound like I hate straight white men, but I don't.
You know?
But it's also like they have that permission.
Absolutely, and that's what I said, right? Like we sometimes feel like we can take whatever other people give us just because that's the box that they put in, that they put
Yeah.
in, right?
No, it's so funny, Sia, because you just said like, I'm gonna sound that I just hate white straight men, but it's like, it's the way they take space. It's in the way it's so entitled that I see us, not only us like as Black, but I see other people, like people of color, also like reducing their space in order not to take much space of the white community. And it's funny, like you were saying, and I was reminding something like one production that I worked in Victoria actually. And I was there, like I always wear my hair like this, and like I love my hair. I do all the crazy things with my hair, and I know this person meant no harm at all, but this white guy just passed by me, and I was giving him some instructions. Was in a position not to be his boss, but I was giving him some instructions, you know, like what to be done and all. He was very kind and sweet and all. And here I am, like saying all good things about him. So just to make what he did less were horrifying. You know, like, no, that's probably there's a name for this. Like, no, you hear like saying, I can hear my therapist in my head like, you see, no, don't do that. You are just giving like good adjective to a person. But anyways, like he was a nice person, nice professional and all, but I was giving instructions. After all, after some time, I'm watching something, I don't know what's happening, and he passed by me and he does like this. It's so soft.
Backhand.
And like, and I at the time like, haha, I laughed, but then I was like, I don't see doing that with any white woman here. Like, oh, look at here, he's so soft. No, but me, he does. Like, it says somehow, like going back to taking up our space, it says somehow we are not allowed. And when you're trying to take up her space, they find a way to take that back from you.
But who says we need permission though? We don't need any permission to take up that
No, we don't
space.
need. Yeah, no, that's the thing. We don't need any permission. But I don't know. I just feel that when we are doing like automatic, I don't need permission. I'm here taking up the space.
Yeah.
It says they find a way to kind of shake your confidence, shake you. Oh yeah, oh, you're confident. Oh, that's so lovely. Let me pet you. It's like, what? I'm not a dog.
Right.
Come on. Yeah. So yeah, it's just.
I think with what you're saying too, like Lily and Adele, both of that of it comes, and I hate. This is my mom's side. Or I'm like, it comes from childhood. Like I know for me as an immigrant coming here, my mom was like, put your head down. This is how you will succeed. You are in a white man's country. We've left that place. And it was always, that was in my head. like put your, but I have too much of a mouth to like, you know, like it was like, yes, mama. And I'd turn around and be like, no, you're not going to mess with me today. But like a lot of people, a lot of, yeah, it's in our culture of like, you know, like don't show too much. You like, you can't handle that, you know? So if we're teaching our children that, and they're seeing, not even teaching that, but they're seeing us be like that. They're seeing, I have a big thing with my son seeing me, mom's taking up space. And also reminding him that like you as a man are going to have, hopefully not in your days, but now in this world we live in as a man, you like people still see you here. So know that if another woman's taking up space, give her that, like, you know, let her take up space too. But it's teaching our young girls and teaching like that, like just being like, you can take up space, the same space as Rosie, as Paula, as whoever. You have that. And once they have that growing up, when they are young, like when they're young teenagers, it's to them it's gonna be a foreign language. Like what? I can't take up space. That's a F word that you're saying, you know. But I find that especially as like I can't speak on all Black women. I know for me being West African, Sierra Leone is very much so like that of like you know.
The submission. My mom was like, we're South Sudanese, and in our culture there was like a huge genocide against like the Black Africans, and you know, so when we came to Canada, my mom was the really fiery person. She would go to the school and she says, you know how expensive this is, you know, you can't buy this color anywhere, sir, so don't mess with my kids, like you know. And so like growing up with a mom that was just like, she always fought for us, and she always said, you know, are you trying to be like, you know, she used to say this to us, like, you know, if they're going to be racist to you, I'm going to round up all the moms and we're going to City Hall. We're going to make some noise. So no one's messing with my kids. And she always says, defend yourself. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to protect you, you know. And that was so important in my growth, you know, like growing up as like probably like the immigrant community and things like that. And I think that that voice that she instilled in me still shines in these rooms, where every time I get a little awkward, I just see my mom go like, you know how expensive your skin is, you know? And I'm like, yes, mother, like, you know. And so it's so true. Like, I think that it's important that as like Black women and as you become mothers or whatever, or whatever, how you use your voice in the world, you know, to give that voice and that confidence, and to say that, like, you know, anything is possible. And my mom always says, like, you know, what kind of color do you bleed? You know, do they bleed red? Do they have to breathe? Do they have to use the bathroom? Because if they poop, they also stink. So, you know, just balance, you know.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting the way that like all of you are sort of pointing out like the conversation around like the folks that we're talking about, even as we're telling these actually super traumatic and like harassment stories of like people touching like, our bodies, and like, you know what I mean? And I think like it's really interesting because like the conversation around taking up space is really a conversation that like a lot of like minoritized people tend to have, but like for like white cis het men, like it's not called taking up space, it's just existing. Like that's just life, like that there's no like then like there's not a conversation right around that, it's just like living. And then we're having this conversation around it on how can we find ways to feel that confidence. And so like, yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I was also just like drawing some parallels as well to some of the things that I struggled with when creating my film, which was about Black dancers in the city of Victoria. And it also spoke to cultural appropriation in dance, in Black dance specifically. So we have quite a big hip hop dance community here, and West African, and it's like vastly predominantly white, if not sometimes only white. And so we really delved into like, what does that mean? And what does that look like for Black folks wanting to learn these dances? And what does that look like in terms of Black folks wanting to access these spaces, but then not feeling like they belong, or like the title, you know, like feeling like an imposter in a space that like is actually yours. And I found that when I was trying to craft the narrative, I was encountering so many of the same things that we're talking about today around like trying to apologize and like code what you're saying, even though when you know what you're saying is true, you know how you feel about it.
No.
But even as we're telling these stories, we're like, okay, but I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But in reality, all we're doing is telling things as they are. Like we're exposing the truth, and we're not creating, like, even when and I really relate to you, Lillian, when and Sia, when you're talking about like, oh, white men, and then you're like, okay, but I don't want to make it sound like I don't, and it's like, well, it's just a descriptor though.
Yes.
Right. So why do we feel bad for just like naming what's happening? Or when somebody's touching our hair, like, and we feel the need to preface, oh no, but they're really nice. But it's like, why do we feel the need to preface that when like we're just explaining a fact, right? So yeah, I really relate to everything that's been said, and I think like I definitely experienced that when producing my film, particularly.
I literally want to go like this when you did point that out, right? Because like I was trying to allude to before, the fact is that we sometimes have to climb uphill to just be on the same part, right? And that feeling of, you know, having to fight through different things like touching the hair and having to pretend you have another producer. That's not what white people, specifically white men, have to do to actually serve, to be just normal. And right. So I love the idea that we're going to make space, but it's just the fact that we have to put so much effort to actually make space as opposed to just be. Right. And that's the thing, right? And that in and of itself is the definition of imposter, right? We're going in and trying to like gather all our strength to create space, as opposed to the white person who just leaves their house and they're just, you know, creating that space. So yeah,
that existence is so simple, right? Like you could just spring up. But I find it super challenging. I don't know why I kind of have this question where I ask myself, I'm like, why is it so challenging to exist as a Black woman? Like you have to continuously apologize, or, you know, make someone feel a little bit more comfortable, or come down a little bit, or try not to be too intimidating, not to be too loud. Like it's always a balancing act in a sense, you know. But why? You know, why is there so many rules? And it's something that I kind of the question that I ask myself when I feel like the imposter in the room, because sometimes I ask and I look, I'm like, wait, someone asked me something, oh, and I have to make the decision, and I have to think to myself, oh wait, well yeah, me, you know. It's so challenging, but at the end of the day, I think that a lot of the work that I do is around intergenerational trauma and about an identity. And so my first film actually was about how finding out that my mom had experienced like war, and she was a soldier in the army. So just kind of exploring her past and how that sort of affects me and my identity, and also growing up Black immigrant in Canada with this pre-existing PTSD, you know. And so sort of like, you know, sharing my story with the world and kind of letting them understand that, you know, when we come into these spaces, there is a backdrop that we carry with us, you know, our experiences and the places that we come from. Not only are we existing within the Western sense of Blackness, but there's also a history that we carry with us that's not involved in this world, you know. And so I feel like in the Canadian context, it's a lot of like, you know, I actually touch upon this in my film too, but there's a sort of erasure that happens to your identity, and a new one that you take on. And then that kind of sorts of builds that imposter where you're like, wait, no, like, but I'm African, but I'm from here, but I'm from there, but these is my family, this is where I come from, this is what things I experience, but also I'm over here now. And again, here we go with this balancing act, you know?
Yeah. And like exactly what you're saying. It's so interesting, because I find that one thing as humans, we're complex. We can be in many different boxes, right? Yeah. And I find that what tends to happen is just like, for some reason, people see you like, we are 5 beautiful Black women here, but we're all from different parts. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I find that there's been this whole thing of like Black, and that's been made popular, not popular, but that's been known by like the American history, by what American Black is, that now all of a sudden it's like my imposter, like the imposter syndrome I feel is it's like I have to be this Black woman that has been shown by what America shows. So now it's like and now I've erased myself as a Black African, West African specifically woman, which is completely different than a Black American woman's experience, than a Black Brazilian woman's experience, than a Black British person whose parents came there in like the 40s or 50s and they've like, intergeneration, they're British, but they're Black, right? And I think there's this thing of like, it's easier to just label one. And now we feel, and that's that suffering that we feel where it's like, okay, now I'm going to be this Black woman that you've seen that's been popularized by what culture is. And I'm going to take on all those biases. And the minute I say I'm from here, it's like a whole different, it's like I spoke to a different language to you. Like, yeah, I'm from West Africa. Oh my God, what is that? And it's like,
are you from Nigeria or Ghana? Like,
yeah.
They know.
It's like, that's it. The Africa's 2 countries. And it's like, okay, like, or even Brazil. I could only imagine what people would think when you say I'm Brazilian, and it's like, oh, what? You're not this, And it's just like, I'm so sorry. What were you learning in school? Like, you know what I mean?
can speak to that as well. That's something that I found like through filming with my documentary, and like I was using just the word like Black throughout like most of the wording, like the pitch, everything like that. That's something that I'm very comfortable with. And like my dad's from Trinidad, Afro-Caribbean, and so like, are you Trini also?
No, I love Trinis.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Me too. And so I grew up in Toronto, and so like Black is just very like, people just say Black. I never even really thought of it as like, maybe some Black people don't identify, or like what I'm perceiving as Black don't identify that way. But I asked one of the dancers in the interview, I was like, okay, so as a Black woman in Victoria, and she was like, well, to start, I don't identify as Black. I'm not Black. She's like, I'm Nigerian. The color of my skin tone is not Black. That's not something that I identify as. And where I come from, like, everybody is like, you're Nigerian. And the understanding of like color is different here. And like, that blew my mind, because I was like, right. Okay, sorry. Let me like pack my assumptions up, leave them at the door, and like rephrase that question. But I think in terms of, Sia, what you're saying around like all of our experiences being so different, but mainstream society's understanding of Black women coming from like MTV and like, Netflix, and just like popular media portrayals, which can be quite narrow. We can almost sometimes like internalize that as well a little bit, and like find ways that we can fit into those boxes so that we're a little bit more digestible, or make assumptions about other Black women as well. So that's something that I had to learn along the way, where I was like, okay, I've like internalized a lot of these perceptions also.
Yeah, like identity is fluid. At least that's what I always say, is that, even amongst, like, I had this project me and my friend working on, it's called Hyphenated Africans. And it looks at how when we come and take up a space, we become hyphenated. When you leave Africa, you come to Canada, you become an African American, an African Canadian, African whatever. Why is there a hyphen? Why can't we just be Africans that exist in another world, in another country, And it's just really interesting just to see how, if I don't know if you guys have read Francois Dubois, but he talks about double consciousness, and how as Black people we have a double consciousness. Is one is the way the world perceives us, and one is the way that we perceive ourselves in relation to that. And so we have this split paradox inside of ourselves, not only just as it being Black, but even other people. Like, I have a niece who's half like Czech and half South Sudanese, who's going to also go through this duality as well. But people don't understand just the diversity within the African diaspora, and then the African diaspora that exists outside the diaspora, and that there's like levels to this, and Black is it's not even a word that's that can give a proper definition, because Black just is like obsidian and darkness and blackness, but there is so much more. And within even right now on this panel, you can see the diversity within the diaspora, and there's only 5 of us. Like, can you imagine if you actually got an opportunity to see us all, And so I think it's so important that people understand that Black and woman and identity is a continuously fluid thing, and that there's no one size fits all. There is like this really amazing poet. Her name is Kai Davis, and she says that beauty is not painted in a gray scale, but it takes all shades to be able to create a beautiful picture or something like that. And that is what and that her relationship to Black women. That's her poem. So that's my TED Talk.
Sia, didn't she say she had to like record something on her phone and then just send it to us so we could just hear her voice all the time and all her wisdom? Is that what we just talked about?
Listen, I was actually secretly pressing my phone, and I was like, so I was looking. You saw me look. I was like, okay, if I just press this here,
let me just press record.
Stop.
Fidelisms. Beautiful. So just to kind of not even switch gears, but just talking about, I'm hearing like all of us have experienced some type of imposter syndrome or imposter stance within the room. What is something that you have found or discovered that you can combat it or help to heal it or help to kind of navigate through that, if anything?
I think for me, it's still a journey, I don't know when this is going to stop. Yeah. But I think for me, it has a lot to do with finally seeing and accepting who I am, not only as a human, but also as a Black person, as a Brazilian, accepting my ancestrality, accepting my history, because coming from where I am, I don't know what about your backgrounds, but you were taught to ignore your Blackness because being Black is bad. Being Black means you're poor. Being Black, like all the assumptions. Being Black means that you're poor. You're not went to school. You're probably working sub jobs. And you're not going to be successful. So I'm trying to heal all these ancestral wounds in order to finally see me and say, okay, I can take up space. I don't care white, Black, brown, whatever color you are. I'm here to take a space. I'm here to shine. You deal with that. If you have a problem with me, that's your problem. That's not mine. So being able to say that without saying, I'm sorry, so that's I think for me is mostly understanding and accepting myself. I don't know how is that going to work exactly, but I just feel that is my answer for this question.
And I felt chills when you said that, right? Just being able to sit in your truth and who you are, that core self, and just saying, I'm me, that's it. I love that. How does that feel even in your body when you think about that? Like,
it feels weird. Like it feels like my stomach's just like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up. Do I have to say sorry right now? So because it's like Sia told about her mom, like you don't raise your head, you just like keep looking down. Like my mom is white, my dad is Black, and I was raised mostly with my white family. So all the time, I was the darkest one with the toughest hair, and I was bullied in school, and all because I was never victim of racism direct, like, oh, you Black or whatever. But I was always a victim of structural racism. So because nobody on TV was like me, my hair was bad. Like that wasn't nice. I was elected the ugliest girl in the school because my nose is different. All my features is what in TV says you're a slave, you're a maid, you're a criminal. So that is the thing that I'm trying to take, because it's no kidding. Like you go to a store here, I go like, okay, I better buy something, because if I got into the store and don't buy, people may think I'm just came here to buy to rob something. Like, come on, girl, you never robbed anything. Why are you worried? Yeah, I don't know, but maybe they will think, right? So we better buy this. I don't even need this. So it's so within us. It's just like, and it's funny because it's nothing that it's something that I never like experienced, but it's as I'm finally seeing all the ones my ancestors had, like coming up within me. My father never told me, you don't look up because you're Black. No, I was never pointing out at home for being Black. My father, on the contrary, my father always treated me and my sister as part of a human. We are human. You just have different color. You're human. But at the same time, I never connected with my Blackness, with my Black side. No, because that was bad, right? The Black side of the family, the big family, was poor. The Black, like living in a community that you go is dangerous. Like you almost have to whisper. So it is a lot.
Yes.
And it's just like unpacking one and then you pull a lot of together. It's like, oh my God, I wasn't hoping for that. But I just hope that once I start to heal and accepting myself for being who I am, for being a Black woman that chose to come to Canada and is going to deal with whatever comes, and someday is going to shine and win the Oscars, I have to heal all those.
We will pay for that for you. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it.
I just remember what Adele's mom says. This is expensive.
It's expensive, okay? Yeah.
Exactly.
You pay for so many sessions to get close.
Absolutely.
Right? And we get it for free. $3.99.
Anybody else? Anybody else find ways to kind of combat or heal or kind of like push away this feeling of imposter syndrome and just being in your core self within the room?
Go ahead.
Oh, I just have a quick one, but I was just going to say coalition building. Like, the way that we feel about ourselves is never in a vacuum, and we can never get there all the way without people around us being like, yes, you're the shit. Yes, you're awesome. This is like, and also being able to see your struggle and your experiences reflected in other people. So for me, like finding other folks in the industry, in whatever like area I find myself, whether it's university or wherever, being able to find those other people who are like-minded, who have similar experiences. And chances are in a lot of spaces as well, there's already work being done that we can just piggyback onto, because there's been so much work around justice happening in so many different industries. So just tapping into that, building community, building coalition has really helped, especially in cities like Vancouver and Victoria, where the numbers of us are not super great. So the communities can tend to be quite strong for that reason.
I have a personal one.
Yeah.
This is like a practice that I do with the little girls in my family, is where you look yourself in the mirror and you just boast and you say, who is that? I just want to ask who gave you permission to slay today. And it's just those constant I am statements, like when I'm with everyone with I have like 7 little girls under me, so we have these conversations where we do I am statements, and I ask them, who are you? Not who are you as my cousin or as you're connected to the family, but who are you as like, who do you want to be? Like, let's project into the future. And those I am statements have really helped me in my journey when I used to question like who I was or who I wanted to become. And instead of asking who am I just try to say I am, and just to find myself in as many spaces as I can be in, and to know that like, even as a creative and even as an artist, like I'm manic and I have all these different ways that I want to express myself and I'm crazy and all that, whatever, but I am, and that's sort of like, even the problem, like my first documentary was called Who Am I, and it was about trying to figure out my identity and who I was or who I wanted to become, or the stories that I carry with me. And I found that the best way for me to answer that question is just to define myself and just say I am. And that's how I've learned to take up space.
Aww.
And Sia, how about you?
For me, it's okay. It's really it's interesting and weird, but I try to go through the day. How do I word this? So, okay, I have to say it in my language in my head, and then it comes out as English.
Say it in your language even now, and then translate it. We're okay.
like for go to the day where I did help somebody understand me better. So basically, so basically what it is I like going through the day. I like to do one thing a day where I talk to somebody or someone talks to me. And we have, sorry, I don't know what happened with my computer. You guys just disappeared. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, we see you.
And there's a connection or not, or something that's being discussed about me. Yeah, like, as a thing. I don't know how to say it, but it's every day. It's not educating, but informing and, correcting and like, you know what I mean? So I like today at the show I'm working on, it's a play. I brought my West African food. You know what I mean? Because it's like, this is what West African food is like. And let's like, so it's like conversations and just listening, hearing, and then, talking to someone and being like, just a little food for thought kind of thing, right? So I do that on every single set I'm on. If, someone's like, I don't get why Black people let it down. I'm like, well, let's just like talk about that, And if I hear a conversation that I'm not a part of, I always do this. I'll pull the person aside privately and be like, listen, you were talking pretty loudly about this. So I feel like I can talk to you about it. And so it's something that's really helped me being like, okay, I can't solve everything, but what I can do is every day going by, I can plant a seed because that's all you need. You just plant that seed and you don't know what happens after. It's up to them to ignore it. But it's hard to do that in this world right now because things are hitting us. We're still in I don't like to call it a pandemic. I said panorama, pandemonium. We're still, we're still sitting here and listening and hearing. We're forced to, right? So that's what's really helped me in the past couple of years of going through that. Also, every single morning, I give myself a high five.
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone. We have about 3 minutes, so I just want to go kind of like another kind of round table. What would you say to somebody, a young Black person, young Black woman that wants to get into this industry? What is like one piece of advice that you would give them?
I would say, remember that you are enough.
This one is more of a joke, but I just say you're going to be Black for the rest of your life. So, the sooner you make your peace with it, the brighter your future is going to be. It's going to be a lot easier when you just realize for the rest of your life, forever, until you exist, you're going to be Black, right? There's no escaping it. So let's just move on and let's just live as human beings.
I love that. I would say get ready for the hard work and get ready for the roller coaster. But at the end of the day, every single moment, live in it. And don't regret anything because once you achieve, because you will achieve what you've come here for when you keep at it, once you achieve it, all these things that you've gone through are what's pushing you to get there. And in order for you to enjoy this moment, it's for you to sit back and see that every other times you've actually enjoyed the whole thing, because that is the only way you're not going to suffer depression. You have to always appreciate and find that. That's what I would say.
And Miss Simone, what about you? Any words of advice?
Yeah, I think I would say like jump right in and maybe like know the difference between being like unnecessarily self-critical and like be and like reflecting in order to grow. And like just kind of try and find that balance, but overall just like go for it. You'll make mistakes, that's inevitable, so just do it and you'll figure it out along the way.
Well, I'm so excited that I got to meet all of you today. Like, how cool was this conversation? Like,
amazing.
Just seeing Black people. I mean, we're all accepting of the word Black right now, right? But like just seeing all the Black people, all Black women. I have not met you. Well, one day, hopefully we'll be able to do that. But just, I want to thank you so much for your sharing today. It touched my heart. I had chills just hearing every one of your stories about just, being in this industry. And I'm so excited to see everything that's happening in the future for you guys. Is there anywhere we can, again, real quick, anywhere we can find you online, starting with Lillian? Tell us kind of your website. Do you have anywhere that we can find you?
I don't have a website yet, but you can find me. My email is lilianmello.art, lily@gmail.com. And I'm also on Instagram at lily with a Y .mellow.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Adele, where can we find you?
You can just, if you look up my name, Adela Rope, you can find all my tags, my website, Twitter, Instagram, everything is the same handle. But my Instagram is Adeezia, ADEEZIA _ Adele. So either Adela Rope or Adeezia are the two names you can find me online.
Awesome. Thank you. Simone, where can we find you?
You can find all of my work at simone-blay.com.
Awesome. That's easy.
Right?
How about you, Miss Sia? How about you?
I don't have a website, but Sia Forio, just type that in. You'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, everything. I feel like with Instagram, if you just type the name in, it'll pop up with, so you'll see me there,
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on this panel. Like I said, this was just a joy for me just to be in space with all of you. And I look forward to seeing everything that comes out. And I'm just so proud of you all. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for holding space for us today, Ruth. This is really incredible. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Yes,
it was beautiful. Thank you. It was lovely, and it was priceless to be here and hear you and feel you. And yes, I don't know. I'm just excited.
I'm just excited. Like, man,
so much love in this room, in this little virtual room.
I want to say something, but I'm going to wait until after we finish recording.